Hey there, EB here on the Anything But Bland weekly update. Happy Thursday. It's raining again. I woke up this morning to rain and I told Renee I can't remember in South Carolina where it rained for 12 straight days. Our pool is almost overfilling. Grass is sopping wet. Dogs don't want to walk on grass with their paws and get them wet. It's just they're tired of rain. We're tired of rain. It's gloomy, doomy. Um, Hopefully, we get a little bit more sun and a little bit more summer before Labor Day comes. So let's dive in. I think the big story of the last week is President Trump sending in the National Guard and possibly military into Washington, D.C., and taking over the supervision of the Washington police force. You know, Washington, D.C. is a federal enclave. It's different than the states of him going in and taking over the states. They're shadow senators, shadow House members, shadow attorney generals that work with the both the federal government and the state and the local DC mayoral office and with the police chiefs there. Um, I think there's going to come a time somewhere down the road if the Democrats ever come back into power, which I'm not seeing that happen anytime soon based on the positions that they're taking. I think they can't find their footing for leadership against President Trump. I think they're on the wrong side of a lot of issues. They're on the wrong side of this issue. Trump is coming from a position of strength. Chris Matthews, who's a rabid yellow dog Democrat, even said that the Democrats quoting statistics and saying that violent crime is at a 30-year low in Washington D.C. That may be true, but murders are up. And if murders are up, that's the one thing that will unnerve a population. Crime is subjective. You could tell me that crime's down, but if I'm a victim of crime, whether it's property damage or being assaulted or having my car stolen um, or being burglarized or robbed, we'll think the entire city is unsafe. The Democrats are on the wrong side of this issue. They should somehow embrace the fact that subjectively people in Washington, D.C. do not feel safe. I used to work there and, had no trouble going up to Georgetown at night, but I wouldn't go in the Southeast. I wouldn't go in the Northeast. I wouldn't even go around the White House at night. There is just a tremendous amount of homeless. If you look around and you see a dirty city, you see graffiti, you're going to think it's unsafe. And the perception of having boots on the ground, whether it's police officers or military, makes people who are law abiding feel safe. And it's certainly a deterrent for someone who wants to commit crime. Whether there's going to be less arrests or more arrests, that's one thing. But if subjectively it makes people feel safer, the Democrats have to get on the right side of the issue. The Democrats can't always be the party that will say, no, don't do that because the statistics don't support that. The idea of being safe and living in a clean city is what people want. And I have a friend whose daughter lives there, and she does not feel safe. She lives near the Capitol with her son and her husband, and she's due for another baby this month. She does not feel safe. You can tell her all the statistics you want, but there's homeless encampments. There's people who live out on the street. There's people who walk by and vandalize her mailbox, and those things make people feel unnerved. And the Democrats cannot seem to find a winner on any type of issue right now. They're retreading old party heads, whether it's, I think Gavin Newsom doesn't have a chance. Certainly Kamala Harris doesn't have a chance. Kamala Harris doesn't have a chance. Certainly, to hear from people like Pelosi, I think Hakeem Jeffries is the worst Speaker of the House, minority leader the Democrats have ever had. I think Chuck Schumer's got to go. Trump is on the right side of the strength of most issues that are happening today. And the Democrats, if they do not find a leader, now this morning I saw that there was a Democratic mayor of Michigan who is changing parties to become an independent uh, of Detroit, excuse me. And he's done an amazing job in revitalizing the city. And now he's running for governor. And the guy had some very good common sense things to say uh, about where we should go as a country. So for me, whether Trump exports this to Chicago, to New York, to LA, to putting people on the street, it's it's a balancing act. He can do this for 30 days. Then he has to go to Congress to get continued approval to keep the National Guard in a particular city. But what are the Democrats going to do? Vote against it? If they vote against it, they're voting against safety. The Republicans are going to pass it. They'll get the 51 votes with Vice President J.D. Vance. So no Republican's going to vote against this. And if the Democrats vote against it, it's just another notch where they're voting for uh, uh, anti-crime, against anti-crime type policies. The next thing is the disgraced Washington prosecutor Ed Martin, who was didn't get the D.C. Attorney General job. Gene Piero got that, former Fox News uh, commentator. Ed Martin has been put in the Justice Department, but he's actually been put into a more dangerous position because his job now is to ferret out um, uh, potential defendants, potential individuals who are engaging in anti-American activities. Really, it's anti-Trump activities. And so he's now going to impanel a grand jury to bring charges against Letitia James for the fact that she pushed forward on the $540 million civil judgment that was rendered against Donald Trump by a judge in New York City after a trial in 2023. And she was just doing her job. It's a criminal case that was directly indicted. And Ed Martin is looking into her to bring a criminal case against her for targeting Donald Trump and violating his civil rights. Now, she should be investigated for mortgage fraud, and she is being investigated for that, where she made some applications in connection with getting federally backed mortgages and other private lending for some of her properties. Ed Martin's also bringing charges against, or trying to bring charges against, Adam Schiff. That's definitely targeted. Trump said, "I'm going to get retribution." He told you that. Listen, I said this to my friend Chuck Thompson last night. This is the most consequential president we've ever had. I use the word consequential because he is upsetting norms. He's doing what he said he would do. And he told you he was going to seek retribution against Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff now has some residency issues where he, unfortunately for him, may have said that his residency was in D.C. instead of California, or vice versa. And so he's being looked at that. Another federal judge in New York City declined the Justice Department's request to release some of the grand jury transcripts in the Epstein case. That is not surprising. What is surprising is the federal judge, who was a Trump judge, said that the information is absolutely worthless, that the federal government wanted released. And so this is not going to go away. It's not going away for Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's not going away for the Democrats. People are asking questions. How is it possible that the Ghislaine Maxwell got transferred from that one prison that she was in Florida to Texas, to a low medium security club fed prison, when she is a convicted sex offender and a convicted perjurer? And there can be waivers to let somebody go into a minimum security prison, but it takes months to get those waivers. Ordinarily, a sex offender cannot be in a low minimum security prison in the federal penal system. even Republicans are asking, how is it that 1 week after, or 3 days after she interviewed with Todd Blanche for 2 days, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, how is it that she got transferred so quickly? So I think that Trump is amazing at changing the narrative, whether it's changing it to Ukraine and the meeting that he's going to have with Putin tomorrow morning in Alaska, or releasing the National Guard in different cities, including DC, for crime purposes. He's changing the narrative. I don't think, though, that when all the dust settles, that the Epstein matter is going to go away. They're going to subpoena the federal prosecutor, Oscar Scalia from Miami, I think, who gave Epstein the sweetheart deal of a plea in 2008. And he has the most information about all the things that Epstein did. I think it's been proven that Donald Trump had a very, 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 very close relationship with Epstein. He was on his plane a number of times, and a number of things happened between them. Definitely, they had a falling out. Not saying at all that Trump did anything with underage girls, but there's definitely a story there that Trump does not want to come out. Um, Melania Trump last night said that she's going to possibly sue Hunter Biden for $1 billion because he falsely claimed that Donald Trump was introduced to Melania through Epstein. So the story just doesn't die. Trump asked Billy Long, the IRS commissioner, 2 months after he named him and he was confirmed. This is 4 IRS commissioners that Trump has terminated since he became president in February. So we got to pay close attention to that. Trump is scrubbing the Smithsonian Institute. He wants to put his vision of history in these various museums. There's 17 different across the country, including an African American Smithsonian Museum, of which Trump ordered that Harriet Tubman's hymn book of religious hymns be removed. I just really feel like that you can't erase history. We need to learn from it. Yes, it doesn't make us feel good at times. Yes, it's negative. We should focus as much as we can on the positive, but only through the negative can we come out cleaner on the other side. And so this has been a long thing about people wiping out, slavery references in museums, Holocaust references, Indians, what we did to the Indians in 1800. And if you start wiping them away, then people aren't going to be taught about it in school, in early childhood education. So I totally disagree with this, by the way. The grandfather of AI is a professor, retired professor from University of Toronto. His name is Jeffrey Hinton, and he was interviewed last night, and he said that there will come a time where AI is smarter than humans, and when the humans direct the computer to do something, if the computer disagrees and think there's a better route, it's going to override the human directive and go with the computer directive. So he said, we have to be prepared for this. And what we need to do is teach these AI programs to be compassionate, to have motherly instincts, is what he said, to have caring instincts. Just so everyone knows, we have AI now where you put tons and tons of information into a program, and then the program spins it around, and if you ask it a question, it will take that information, put it together. That's ChatGPT, and spit out whatever, garbage in, garbage out. There's also AI now, advanced AI, which is independent thinking, separate and apart from what is put into the computer. This is AI at its highest intellectual level, its individual level, taking information and analyzing it and then coming up with new theories. So it isn't garbage in, garbage out. It's computers thinking on their own. So we have to be really careful about that. The next thing is the Kennedy Center. Trump named George Strait, Sylvester Stallone, Michael Crawford, who was the Phantom of the Opera actor, Gloria Gaynor, who was a singer and African American singer in the '90s, and Kiss as Kennedy Center honorees. I think they're great. I think they're perfect to be named. People were expecting he was going to do MAGA people like Kid Rock or Lee Greenwood. I think it's just that Trump is naming these as the honorees instead of the board of directors, which has some people concerned. There also is a concern that Trump is going to give himself a Kennedy um, honoree designation over the next 3 years, and that it's going to be renamed in honor of his wife, Melania Trump. Um, Trump picked a new guy named Antony as the Bureau of Labor Statistics head. Remember, last week he fired the woman who's been there since 2022 because he claimed that the statistics were cooked and that they were not accurate. Now we're hearing that we might not have monthly statistics anymore of labor. Certainly, the economy needs that. The world looks at it. Businesses analyze it. Local governments deal with it. The thing about Antony is he's highly controversial. He was present in the January 6 riots, never crossed the line, though, to go over inside the Capitol or beyond the barriers, but he was there all morning and all afternoon. The other thing is he's roundly criticized because he's not that smart, is what the criticism is. He doesn't understand statistics and how they apply. So we shall see. Uh, Tomorrow, Trump is meeting with Putin in Alaska, which I think is good. It's on American soil. It does lend some legitimacy to Putin that he's back on the world stage, even though he's a pariah. The interesting thing is that Zelensky is not present, although Trump is downplaying what can happen tomorrow. He's said basically he's going to listen. He's not going to talk about swapping land or giving up land. Certainly, Russia wants as much as they can get from Ukraine in the Donbass region. Zelensky will not give up land. Um, so I don't know where this is going to go. I think it's going to be frustrating for Trump. Putin has a way of uh, pushing the can down the road, saying a couple things, assuaging Trump's ego. Maybe he'll talk about letting the United States come and do some mining of rare minerals and resources. But Trump wants a ceasefire. Zelensky says there must be a ceasefire before we begin to negotiate. Putin is not going to do a ceasefire. He's bombing every single day. He's bombing schools now. He's bombing hospitals. He's killing civilians. So I do think it's a good thing that Donald Trump is meeting and trying to do this. And if he could somehow stop this war, he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. He's got to be careful. He's not going to be played. He's got to be careful that he doesn't try to cut a deal for Ukraine because Europe will not go along with it. Um, so, we shall see. Remember, Trump said, 12 different times on the campaign trail and in interviews that he was going to settle the Ukraine-Russian war within 24 hours and even before he took office on January 20th. So that's the other thing. Now, this week was the first time in a couple months he started blaming Zelensky and not Putin. He said that Zelensky again started the war, which is 100% false. And he called Zelensky a killing machine. Russia has lost over 120,000 soldiers. Um, uh, it's amazing that there hasn't been more of a backlash from that or an uprising in his country. But I found out this morning the average Russian male earns $12,000. Soldiers are earning 40. If you're injured in war, you get disability for the rest of your life. So 40,000. They're earning much more, and that's he's paying to get these soldiers. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Putin has played every single president over the last 20 years that we've had. George W. Bush said, I looked into Putin's eyes, I can see his soul. He got played. Obama with Mendev after the 2012 election said, after the election, I'll be freed up more. We can cut deals. And then, of course, Putin invaded Crimea in 2014. Um, Trump administration got another win yesterday, a major, major win from the appellate courts, where it said that he can withhold billions and $billions of aid to foreign countries, even though it's already been allocated, approved, and voted on by Congress. So that's a huge win. Trump has lost many, many fights in the lower court, but he's winning those fights on the appellate courts in front of the Supreme Court. And so that's a really big thing. Um, this week we had a steel plant explode in Pennsylvania. Two people died in Clarington, PA. This is the second type of accident that has happened there. There was a fire on Christmas Eve that destroyed some of the anti-pollution equipment in that facility. It produces coke fuel for steel. So these American steel plants need to make sure they're safe. Um, Trump signed an executive order giving a reprieve to the escalating tariffs to China again for 90 days. He's hammering Brazil and he's hammering India with a 50% tariff because they're buying fuel from Russia. So I think it's a good thing. I think he's uh, sanctioning those countries that buy from Russia. Um, if Russia cannot sell fuel or oil, their economy will fall. So he's definitely doing that. Trump directed that the COVID vaccine status for all federal employees be wiped from their record. So if you are vaccinated, that will not be on your record. Or if you are vaccinated, that will not be on your record. Um, this is on the heels of uh, Kennedy, um, cutting $500 million of allocated funds for certain vaccines. Um, there was a gunman in the CDC in Atlanta late last weekend that killed a police officer. He claimed that he was ill based on his COVID vaccine. Um, Trump is thinking of sending the military into Mexico to go after the drug cartels. Um, However, Claudia Scheinman said that that's not going to happen. She will not permit our military to go into their country. She said we will certainly cooperate, we will collaborate, but we're not going to prevent an invasion of military. That's going to be interesting because Trump has not cut his deals with Canada and Mexico yet fully on tariffs. So I think he's going to do that. Jim Lovell, who was 97 years old, was the commander of Apollo 13 and the Gemini flights. I think he went up in space 5 or 6 times. A real guy that had the right stuff. Um, I was listening to Mad Dog on Sports, and the last week in September is going to be epic for sports. Listen to this. You got the Ryder Cup. You got the last week of the baseball season. So which teams are going to get in? You got Georgia versus Alabama, and then you got the Chiefs versus the Ravens. I think it's going to be amazing. Watched last night Taylor Swift on the Kelsey Brothers Rising Heights or whatever their podcast. Over 1 million listeners on YouTube. She announced the new album that she has. The Life of a Showgirl. Some of the photos are amazing. She's just an amazing, amazing, successful person. Um, Anything she does now is gold. I thought it was really cute when she said on her first date, she asked Travis Kelsey what it's like to be on the other side of the ball, going up against your brother, staring at him across the line. And Travis said, well, we both play offense, so we're never on the field together at the same time. I thought that was really cute. Again, I may have talked about this last week, but a pinup woman of the 80s, Lonnie Anderson with WKRP Cincinnati, who was linked with um, Burt Reynolds. She died, I think, at 89 years old or 79 years old, excuse me. She was, thought of as a ditzy blonde, but she actually was very, very sharp. Um, uh, was her own agent at different times and very successful in investments. So that's just another iconic pinup woman from my childhood, I guess, when I was a younger man. Otani Trout, I'd like to talk about Shohei Otani and Mike Trout. Mike Trout's from New Jersey. Just an amazing baseball player. He's a Mickey Mantle guy that pretty much in his first 8 or 9 years, you thought he's going to be, one of the greatest, if not the greatest baseball player in the last 50 years. But the last 5 years, he's been injured. He's not played a full season, still has over 350 home runs. He's only played in 3 playoff games. Do you realize Otani and him were teammates, the two best players in baseball, arguably over the last 15 years? You can argue Bryce Harper. Certainly now you got to say Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. And then I think there's a drop off, Ronald Acuna Jr. and there's other great players, but the top of the cream of the crop is Trout, Harper, Otani, and Judge. And Trout has never won a playoff game. He's only been in 3, and he's going to go down and be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But nobody's going to remember anything about Mike Trout. You can't see him because it's a 3-hour time difference, and none of his games are ever televised, or if they are, they're at 11:30 at night. So that is going to be really interesting. Otani is pitching again. Cal Raleigh, I think, has 45 home runs now, the big dumper for Seattle. Kyle Schwarber is leading the National League. Judge has 42, and I think Otani has 42. So now let's look at some of the weekly update questions. Does Trump have the authority to take control of the D.C. police? He does, because it's a federal city. It's not a state city. It doesn't have statehood. I definitely think that if the Democrats are going to get it back in power, they're going to have to do 3 things. They're going to have to name D.C. as a state, Puerto Rico as a state, and I think they're going to have to pack the Supreme Court to have 13 justices. That is what now is being espoused by a number of head of the Democrats Party. He does have the legal right to do this. Now, if he claims an emergency or for national security reasons, he can also deploy it in states, and that's what he intends to do for Chicago, New York, LA, and maybe Atlanta. I talked about the appellate court, that they've agreed that Trump can cut all this foreign aid. Again, this is soft power. This is really good stuff that we do for the rest of the world. Not only does it prevent from, illnesses like Ebola coming to the United States and different kind of infectious diseases, but if we can help with people that are starving, it shows that we're a just, kind nation. And I don't think you can just detach yourself from the rest of the world. It seems like that now the Supreme Court of the United States is being asked to overturn the same-sex marriage precedent that they said. That is going to be a real problem. This is Kim Davis, the former Kentucky clerk of court, has petitioned the United States Supreme Court seeking to overturn the Oberfeld decision, which obviously legitimized same-sex marriage. So that's going to be another thing. It was interesting that earlier this summer, Trump said that he doesn't see that there should be a separation of church and state. That'll be a big fight if he ever tries to take that up to the Supreme Court. Elon Musk plans legal action against Apple for the way that they store their apps and how they rank them. That's going to be interesting. Elon Musk has been very, very quiet since he really lost the public battle against Trump over the big, beautiful bill that he opposed. You can't win a fight against the president of the United States. His stock is down, so he's probably focusing on um, Tesla right now. I did read an article that um, he has so much capability to launch rockets every single day into space for satellites and to go to the space center that no other government has this capability. Their rockets are one and done. His rockets go up, they come down, they land actually um, bottom up, from the bottom where they are standing vertically. So it's really an amazing thing. Um, We got the AG's response this week from Alan Wilson to the appeal done by Alex Murdaugh and his lawyers. I thought it was extremely well written, learned a lot. We talked about it this week on Cup of Justice episode, listened to it, but there were a ton of things that I learned that I thought that the federal standard of just showing that there was interference by a government official with the jury is enough to get a new trial. There's actually a split in the circuit. So I think Justice Toll did the right thing by applying the South Carolina standard and not the Remmer standard, where you not only have to show interference by a governmental official, you have to show it actually changed the outcome of the trial. Um, so I think the conviction is going to be affirmed by our state Supreme Court. On the federal level, that's going to be a different story. Valerie Hallery said, we should address the negative head on, learn the lesson, make sure it is applied to the future, educate the next generation, and make sure they know how to educate their children. Not one person's version of history, but for things that actually happen. We ought not delete the primary source a century and a half later. I totally agree. School, I think, in Washington is renaming their school Robert E. Lee. I don't think you scrub Robert E. Lee. I don't think you scrub statues. All of these things cumulatively together make us smarter, make us more compassionate, understanding history, make sure we don't repeat it. There's nothing to be learned from a second kick of a mule. So that's it. Thank you for listening. Everybody have a great weekend, and EB out.